Well, it's certainly not the best way to come back from a camping trip, but here we are because we're here to talk about my San Francisco 49ers as they put on an absolute stinker against the Minnesota Vikings. And just when I thought that they're going to finally overcome their true demons in their dreams, but that wasn't the case in their week 2 matchup against the Minnesota Vikings as they lost 23-17 in a performance that, well, they want to forget. Brock Purdy wants to forget. Kyle Shanahan will most certainly want to forget. This early in the season, well, they just want to hope to forget this performance. And it was a score that, well, that you'd think that, okay, this is very close. This was a close game that you just saw on a Sunday morning that you might have been watching at home in the comforts of your home, or you might have been like me that was trying to catch on it here and there on the way back from a camping trip. And making a stop here and there on an apple farm. But unfortunately, no, it actually was a performance that will have you scratching your head and hopefully trying to move on from it. Yeah, so it was a performance that'll have you be thinking otherwise. So let's talk about this game from the 49ers perspective first, and then we'll talk a little bit about Minnesota. So this theme overall for San Francisco, it was just basically mistake after mistake after mistake. So it's pretty much the opposite of Seamus's banger after banger after banger. So we can say mistake after mistake after mistake. That's basically what the 49ers mantra was for week 2 in Minnesota. Starting off with mistake number 1, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy didn't exactly have a great game. Like, not good at all. Sure, he threw for over 300 yards, but forget what the stat sheet says. He did not look good in this game. Sure, he was more involved in this game, as I had hoped for, but it was in a very mixed way, especially in the first half. He committed a few near interceptions, but he also advanced the ball downfield nicely for some good passes to hopefully try and get the Niners going. He threw a nice touchdown pass to George Kittle towards the end of the first half, but then the third quarter happened. He threw a bad pass that was behind Kyle Juszczyk, juggled around, and intercepted by the safety Josh Metellus of the Vikings. And then Sam Darnold and Minnesota would cash in later on, like right away, with an easy lob pass to his receiver Jalen Naylor. And it was 20-7 at that point, midway through the third quarter. So they were already down, well, already 13-7. Things were just made way worse at that point in the game. And then Purdy made it even worse when he threw another pick, when he let the ball slip out of his hands. And then, while they were fortunate that nothing came out of that, still, the 2 picks were just the cream of the crop. It was the cream of the crop of a bad day in the office for Brock Purdy, and probably one of his worst outings so far in his NFL career. And I didn't even mention the fact that he got sacked 6 times thanks to his terrible offensive line, and a couple of those were caused by himself as well. But nonetheless, he suffered a good amount of sacks in the second half in a day that he will definitely regret. Then going on to mistake number 2, the defense. Sure, they had some plays that kept them in it. And when I mean defense, I mean Fred Warner. Fred Warner did as much as he could to keep the 49ers team afloat, especially, for example, a peanut punch fumble that saved Minnesota from scoring, adding on to the pain and suffering that the Niners were having all throughout the day. He saved the Niners from suffering from the pain as he saved a touchdown from happening from Aaron. I believe it was Aaron Jones. So he punched that boy out, and the Niners recovered it near the 1-yard line. So that was at least a little bit of positivity there. And then Nick Bosa also had himself some decent production there with a sack on Sam Darnold to force a punt around the fourth quarter. But unfortunately, those were just not enough. They were overshadowed by the big plays they gave up in the end, mostly because of the secondary, who were having serious issues all throughout the game. They gave up this big 97-yard touchdown, which was probably the big difference maker in this game. Which was led up by this questionable decision to go for it on 4th down, which was mainly not the issue. I would take that back, but it was what the play that was called, which I'll talk about later. But after that, the 97-yard touchdown they gave up to Justin Jefferson, and then the already mentioned one to Jalen Naylor after the first Purdy pick. So, yeah, not a really good day for the defense. Actually, it was a terrible day for that freaking defense on not just the big things, but the smaller things, like giving up first downs, not making tackles, just in general, very terrible coverage because, well, they were relying so much on Fred Warner just 2 games in. And then number 3, Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I will say this. I at least appreciate a little bit Kyle Shanahan being aggressive in his coaching, trying to go for it on 4th down, on near the goal line. But this is where my peeves start to come in. His aggressiveness in those decisions. His aggressiveness leading to greed. Like, why are you having Brock Purdy throw near the goal line? Like, did you not watch the tape? Do you not watch the tape? It's Super Bowl 49. Do you not see that infamous decision of Russell Wilson throwing it at the goal line and getting picked at the goal line? That does not happen, succeed very often, ever since then. Like, you have Jordan Mason, who has been doing fine in the game, who has been a suitable replacement for Christian McCaffrey, who unfortunately is on injured reserve, and hopefully he'll be coming back stronger than ever from that Achilles tendonitis. But right now, you have to settle for Jordan Mason, who has been doing fine and went on to do better as the game went along. But of course, Kyle Shanahan got greedy. Why are you getting greedy with Purdy? Why are you throwing it at the goal line in that situation? Why don't you just use Jordan Mason in that goal line situation? Why don't you just pound the rock like a yard and a half out at that point? Or even better, why not just go for the points with Jake Moody? He's been fine so far too. And what happened there? You got killed by Sam Darnold and JJ 2 plays later. So, of course, Kyle Shanahan didn't learn his lesson later. He also decided to go for it on another 4th down, not even close to midfield on the very next series. And, well, again, fortunate that the Vikings didn't convert on that on the series after them. So, yeah, mistakes. Mistakes were the theme of the day. And, I forgot to mention another mistake. The blocked punt on Mitch Wisnowski very early in the game because the offensive line can't hold up, which led to, the first points of the game for the Vikings. Overall, very unacceptable with this game for the 49ers. Like, very sloppy play all around the board. And where was Deebo? Deebo Samuel was there at a couple points, but where's Brandon Ayuk? Like, where was he all throughout this game? I feel like he still has a lot of catching up to do, I suppose, but yeah, gotta do a lot more than that. So for the Minnesota Vikings for a little bit, the front 7, they indeed had themselves a nice game against Purdy. Jonathan Greenard, Iron Pace, they challenged and exposed that 49ers offensive line as a very broken one. Like, at least in this game for right now. In the passing game especially, they had their way with those 6 sacks on Brock Purdy. They pressured him into some bad throws. And they weakened his confidence some in there in the 3rd quarter and for the rest of the game with those 2 interceptions, those multiple sacks. So, like I said, the key to the game for Minnesota was to go after Brock Purdy. So that's certainly what they did on the personnel side and for defensive coordinator Brian Flores as well. And offensively, Sam Darnold made up for the lack of a rushing attack. Aaron Jones, honestly, when you look at it, he didn't do a whole lot, but he did make enough, but still, it's something. Yet, Sam Darnold was pretty effective in the passing attack. He did exactly what he needed to do, spread the wealth around Justin Jefferson and Jalen Naylor for much of the game, especially considering that Jordan Addison was not available for this one. And that was even when Justin Jefferson went out late with a quad injury. He and the rest of the offense did just enough to buy time to hold off the 49ers. But that is something to watch, though, for a Vikings fan, is that quad injury. How severe is it going to be? Is it going to be enough to hold him out for a couple weeks or for the next game? Or is it going to be fine? That's something to keep an eye on. So, overall, yeah, not a good performance for San Francisco. And they have to really look at this tape. They really do, because another team that had a bad week was the LA Rams, because they got their ass whooped too. in the desert by their division rival Arizona Cardinals. So yeah, let's speak on that. Let's speak on that. Week 3, which is coming up relatively soon. I mean, only like 7 days, which goes by really fast. Let's look ahead to week 3, like very early look ahead to week 3 against the LA Rams. So, yeah, like I said, the Niners have to look long and hard at this early season whimper against Minnesota, because up next is the second final game of this road trip, which is like relatively down south this time. So they go down to their second home in LA, which is LA, to take on the Rams in their first division matchup of the season. I mentioned earlier that the Rams got their butt whoops by the Arizona Cardinals, 41-10. Yeah, they allowed 3 touchdowns. 2 of them came early to Kyler Murray in the first half. And yeah, whether they're beat up or not, I know the Rams are in a big hole too, but they're going to be coming in at least somewhat motivated, if not very motivated, to try and get their first win of the season, regardless of their current injury situation. But we'll talk more about that once we get along to our preview for this game. But for the 49ers, they have to really look at this game and try to bounce back before their next home matchup in a couple of weeks. So let me know your thoughts on this game for the 49ers. What do they need to do to bounce back for week 3 in Los Angeles against the Rams? Speak on it in the comments below. But anyway, yeah, the Niners lost this one 23-17 against the Minnesota Vikings. They are 1-1 in 2024, and hopefully they'll be able to bounce back next week. So overall, not good. Not a good one in week 2. But for now, that is it for this 49ers video on Very Cold Lasagna. I am DylanLasagna, signing out of another one. And until the next time we talk about San Francisco, peace out.